Good evening. It is 5:30, June 5th, 2023, and time for the first monthly meeting of the Richmond Water and Sewer Commission meeting for the month of June. Before we begin, would anybody joining us either in person or virtually care to make a public comment? Hearing none, seeing none, moving on. Welcome, Aaron. Okay, Josh, board, any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda?
No.
Hard?
Discussion of whether we need to keep starting.
A second.
Oh, further discussion.
So these meeting times, as we were just saying, are dependent on content in the agenda. I do think 5:30 is better than 5.
So moved.
Should,
Yeah.
I mean, we sort of kick it around a little bit depending on agenda size. Should we poll the board before deciding on a start time for future meetings?
Or maybe let's just shoot for 6, and if we feel compelled that we have to start at 5:30, do 5:30, so we'd have to pay attention to the start time.
That works.
Okay. And that's kind of what I did looking at this agenda. I was like, not 2 hours worth of business, but maybe more than an hour. So just in consultation with Jay and David, but I think you're right. We've gotten through a lot of very lengthy issues recently, and we can probably see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit.
At the end of the pipe.
As long as it's at the end, not somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. It's getting closer. Any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda?
No.
Okay. Moving on, section 3. You were already ahead of schedule by 2 minutes. 3A, review of consumer confidence report and public notice regarding missed asbestos test. So I assume you all saw the notice in the packet. We missed the required asbestos test. It was done later after the fact and not surprisingly yielded no asbestos in the test. But since we missed the window, Josh, did you want to lead that discussion?
Sure. So the Consumer Confidence Report is an annual report that comes out about this time every year that we have to deliver to all of the water customers. So everybody gets a mailed copy. We post it up on the website as well as physical posting locations in town. And it goes over water quality numbers for the last year. The anomaly or the new thing this year is the missed asbestos test, as David referred to. And this is a test that we are required to do once every 9 years. And we missed it at the end of year 9. Staff quickly saw that, did the test within a couple months. So I've got, you can see, I'll zoom in a little bit. So on this section, the Consumer Confidence Report, it talks about the violation that we had, which is failure to monitor asbestos. We said the test was completed in March of 2023. The results showed no detectable amount of asbestos. Along with adding it into the Consumer Confidence Report, part of the requirement is to send out a public notice within, I think it's 12 months of the missed test to all the customers to inform them more about the test. So here's the public notice template that they gave us. So we'll send this out to say the test was completed in March of 2023. The results showed no detectable amount of asbestos. We verify how we've mailed this and distributed this. So our plan is to include this document as well as the Consumer Confidence Report in one mailing to all customers who will be notified of consumer confidence and the missed test.
Bard?
So I'm just noticing one of the comments in the notice says, please share with this information with all the other people who drink this water, including those who may not have received this notice directly, including, for example, people in apartments, nursing homes, schools, and businesses. So beyond just the customer mailing, it seems like some other reaching out to those people who are not always customers.
Like customers of the Big Spruce or.
Well, I think,
Front Porch Forum, at least.
yeah, I think Front Porch Forum, I think we can also mail it to all physical addresses on the line. And then I think in here it also talks about if you're a landlord, please give give the Consumer Confidence Report to your tenants. And we can include a separate letter to that point too, to say, if you're a landlord, please pass this along. We'll do our best to reach everybody, but that's a good point.
Denise?
Could we also post it like we do for public meetings?
Yeah.
You know how you post it in 3 different places?
Yeah, that's part of the
That's
requirements
part of the requirement,
for, yeah, so we'll post that in our places as well as online and public forum.
So I want to go ahead.
So my one other comment, this may be for Steve or others. It seems unlikely that asbestos is floating down the river, but it seems more likely to be coming from degradation of pipes that contain asbestos. Is that plausible?
Correct.
Not to argue what you just said, but there are a lot of asbestos veins in northern Vermont, so it could well be floating down the Winooski River. I'm just going to preface what I'm about to say by making a clear distinction between an excuse and an explanation. I'm not excusing this. Obviously, this was supposed to have happened and didn't. But it is important to note that the asbestos cement lines that the village does have used to be the gold standard for water lines. And there's been no indication in the history of these lines that any of the asbestos has come out of the pipe. The water is very non-corrosive and does not disturb the pipes. So never had a problem with asbestos, but that doesn't excuse the fact that we need to do timely testing.
And I won't make an excuse, but I'll give you the explanation. All of our testing for the year is on a form from the state. Everything on that page was done. The only thing that was on page 2 was the 9-year asbestos test. And that's how we missed it. Nobody flipped the page.
Shrink the font a little bit.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
that's how it was missed.
Morgan?
Well, it's interesting, or just comment is that it's only done every 9 years. It's odd, like, and not that we might have missed on year 10, who knows? But anyway, the point being that if it seemed to have been a serious problem, we'd be doing it annually, right?
I imagine I know nothing about this, but there are probably
Those are set-
guidelines for,
Those are set by the EPA
Right.
and
Yeah.
the state follows them.
Yeah.
The other thing, we caught it in February. We did the test where the state wanted us to take it, which is town center, which no longer has asbestos pipes in front of it. So we had to retake it. That's why it ended up being March. So we actually took it where the state wanted us to take it. But there's no asbestos pipes there anymore. So,
any questions or comments before we move on asbestos cement pipes and testing? Okay. Yes,
It kind of goes to testing. I don't know if you noticed in Front Porch Forum, there was a user that noticed that it smells, the water now smells like he thinks, I guess, chlorine or whatever. And I'm just wondering, since we've been putting fluoride back in, have we been testing and are there any unusual levels?
well, I'll let you speak to that, you know.
we are actually, there is a higher level of chlorine in your water than used to be.
Yeah.
The state wants it at a higher level. So we have moved up to it. The fluoride levels are monitored, fluoride and chlorine are monitored every day. And actually, if you come down for, I'll run through the complete log of testing and stuff when we come down. But, our fluoride levels are pretty constant. I mean, I think last month we ended up at a 0.6 or a 0.7 for the month. The only time there's a real fluctuation is when we have to physically mix a new batch of fluoride. And we're working on a solution to not have that fluctuation.
And does the board ever get back to that gentleman that made that public comment? Does anybody ever like have a private conversation with him to say you might have because of what you just said? Because as a user, that would have made me more comfortable, like, oh my God, they listened to what I was saying. And I don't know if you have the time or if you even address when people make comments like that.
I usually read Front Porch Forum. I didn't see that. I don't remember seeing that, but that's a good idea.
I'll comment, he's a neighbor.
Okay.
So,
We go over the numbers usually once a month in a meeting too. So if you come next week, you'll probably see it.
Yeah.
But the boys will give us a packet and it will be the tests for the previous month every week. So that is something that can be found online too.
Yeah.
Kara?
I think the question is that they were not chlorinating to the level that they should have been, and now they are, so they're gonna be a significant change. To what people are
The chlorine
experiencing.
levels were always adequate. That
So the state has, I thought there was.
they have changed where they want us to take the sample point from
Okay,
and to test
so you
there.
haven't added any more,
We have to keep a higher level at that point to get what
Okay.
the results they want at the
Correct.
end of the.
because you're monitoring in a different part of the system, so you have increased, I want the people to know.
Yeah.
You have increased,
Yes.
Yeah.
that's the key. And the other key is, because I had somebody else ask me to speak on this tonight, because it's so bad. Theirs is so strong now that it's, hard to brush your teeth with it. It's so strong. And they could be where they are in the system. So my question is, can they go out and just check what the level is at a property if there's a concern by somebody who lives there at where they are on the line to make sure that they're correct where they should be? And then the answer is, just like they have to do in Essex and other towns, you have to put one of those charcoal filters on your faucets to help with the chlorination flavor and the smell and all of that.
The chlorine levels are, I didn't take the test today because Brad did it, but, I know on Saturday when I tested, they were a 1.5 at the Waterhouse, and that is post-treatment, pre-distribution. So if, say, Gary Brassor turned his faucet on,
It wasn't him that called.
no, but the likelihood that Gary is gonna be getting a 1.5 is pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
But as it goes down into the distribution into the system, it does dissipate, and that's the
I
reason. with
totally
the
understand.
state. So for your, yes, if anybody calls the Waterhouse, us at the
Mhm.
plant, and they have a question and they want us to come do a test, we can do a test right in their kitchen.
And you could just turn around and say, this is the way it normally smells. And
Yeah.
if you tell them that, then the
But-
next step for people to be aware of.
We have not been aware of any complaints
Filter it.
at the Waterhouse.
Okay. No,
From,
they call me instead. Thank you.
well,
I appreciate that.
um,
So I'll let them, I'll let
Yeah.
them do that.
Sorry?
But it's a thing that you just want to let your users know, that if you've increased that level and now they're smelling it and complaining about it, that's the next thing that
Right.
people do.
I would just say I find myself personally torn about responding to the various things that are said in Front Porch Forum. I have this approach avoidance thing because we spend a fair amount of time in meetings dealing with exactly these issues. I've seen people ask questions. They could have gotten a quick answer if they called the town manager or the water sewer department. And so, or Karen. And so that might be another thing that we say, that, if you want a rapid answer to a question, you don't know who to ask, you could call the town offices. And
I actually like that somebody's putting a question out in Front Porch Forum, because somebody else might have that same exact question, and rather than have Josh take 15 calls, he could possibly reply to a Front Porch Forum post and have everybody in town be aware of the same piece of information.
So that's
that's-
really a fair point. I will just say, it's not part of my job description to read Front Porch Forum and respond to the variety of questions that I see across the range of town business. So it's a reasonable question, how we want to deal with that method of call and response, if you will.
And it might not, and it might be Josh just forwards it to the right department.
Morgan?
Go ahead.
Oh,
And I think on that, Bard, that's why we have meetings. If it's a real issue, you come forward to a meeting or in writing and say, okay, I've got a question. Can you guys answer this if it's,
That's why I'm here.
oh, I'm aware, but I'm just saying, for those people, I guess the approach would be, if I had a question, I'd be like, hey, what's the deal? I'm tasting this. Is this normal?
my response would be, we're at a 1,
Yep.
we can go as high as a 4.
Okay,
We're at a, and we're, so I, and
Yeah.
to this point, I did take a call from somebody a few weeks ago about with just that same question.
Okay.
Hey, what's going on with my water? Well,
There you
here's what happened in 3 minutes, they knew it was out.
exactly.
So this is, and I've actually updated this, but this is the one we shared last week. So if you look at the entry point chlorine, this is where it talks about, we're looking at least a 0.1 is where we're trying to stay at. So it's a 0.1, not
Yeah.
a one.
But this is
So, hold
a
up.
different language for people.
But where we were, just everybody in this room and listening, we were at 0.01.
Correct,
And we
right?
were, and I'm just.
So it's 10 times.
I don't know if Deborah knows. So sorry, yes, we were very low, but there was never really a problem. But the state looks at it and says, we'd like you to be at 0.1 in case there ever is a problem. There's enough chlorine in the system to make sure that it reacts and cleans things. So that's where people are seeing that higher jump. And yeah, we're usually at 0.1, actually a little higher a lot of times on chlorine, 0.2, 0.3, I think sometimes.
Yeah,
But the highest allowable is 0.4, but if you're there, you're way high.
yeah.
We're always below 1, but above 0.01 by quite a bit.
And we were actually just took a water sample at Stone Corral the other day. And we had the discussion with him, you know, how's the water been? And he's like, it's great. pH is great. He's like, it's good. And so, I mean, if he's using it to make beer,
It's possible that the person who wrote in is just as an unusually sensitive.
and there are people out there.
Right, but it'd also be I mean, just for general curiosity's sake, to wander in and take a sample, because you find out two things. One, it's what everybody else has, in which case he's reassured, or two, little green men are putting extra chlorine in, and then we find out something new, but either way, I don't think it's a waste of effort.
And if you'd like, next week, I'll come in and do a chlorine, I'll show you exactly how we do this test.
Mhm.
It's very simple.
Corrigan?
I mean, I noticed increase in chlorine months ago, so. But then I was on the inside, sir. You know, so,
You knew it was coming.
I was in the know, right?
Oh.
And I liked it before when it was 0.01, but anyway, it's beside the point. But I am wondering and responding to Front Porch Forum. And I know the individual has complained about not getting a good hamburger in town, so. Put things in perspective. Great person too. That. If somebody's posting, I mean, who do you go to? Because. Josh or Steve or Jay or Bart, we'd all might give a different answer. And so the point being is if it's posted, I think it's worth tabling at a meeting before responding.
Well, what I try to do when I'm in that situation is I say, I'm not an expert. This is only my 2 cents. Please don't take this as ex cathedra. And here are some options you have, such as, here's the number for the water department if you'd like to call.
Yeah, and
Department head, what's wrong with the department head answering the question?
Full disclosure, I tend to email it to a person that I think could respond to it or elicit a response and say, hey, you think we should respond to this?
Right.
As opposed to me personally
Good point.
jumping in.
And I usually do try when I've gotten those emails from you. I got one last week on this one. I usually try to then jump in and give a response. Last week I didn't get to it. I will put a response on tomorrow about the front porch, so everybody sort of knows. It'll be a little late, but I'll get
Yeah.
one out there.
Sometimes people reach out directly to us, and that's when the whole this is only my 2 cents thing comes in. Otherwise, yeah, I have enough to do without answering every question.
I will say, since I've been at the water department, I make it a must to answer the phone. That wasn't always the case there. Any customer that I talk to, I try to explain, you know, their problem, what's the solution for them. Or, you know, if it's I have not had any chlorine problems. Most of them are pressure problems, but I figure that's our job, to answer the phone and respond to the customer.
Thank you.
Okay, review of list of water and wastewater items to be repaired or replaced.
So we continue to meet weekly on the items, go over the list. There's a lot that are sort of continue to be works in progress. I think some highlights to talk about maybe this week is a 20-year study and what we found out about septic meters.
So the 20-year study happened. I think it was I was very impressed.
Like they came and
They did the
not done
kickoff.
yet.
meeting.
It's not all the
No,
way
they did
done.
the
Is
kick,
it?
sorry, yeah.
No,
so
no,
they did-
no, no.
yeah.
They came and did a walk,
Okay,
but.
It was like a 4-hour walk.
okay.
Who designed the system 20 years ago was there.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was a little taken back when she said, because I confronted her and I said, how come the influent pumps weren't addressed 20 years ago? And she said, this building, look
Wasn't
at it.
here.
She said, look at it. Has anything changed in it? The windows are old, there's no upgraded doors, everything. She was told that building was off limits 20 years ago.
Beautiful.
And that's why nothing was done with the influent pumps or anything. And was rather surprised that the condition and the way some of the plant was being run was not the way that it was intended to. But she said it's fixable.
Yeah.
The new engineer who's doing it, Jenny, seemed really knowledgeable. I was very impressed with her. It comes down to they're gonna put together an engineering study and what they need and what needs to be fixed and what needs to address. And then she's like, well, then it's your responsibility to find the money. The discussion about the influent pumps. We had this discussion the other day. The estimation to fix the influent pumps and put screening ahead of them. And that whole process. It's more than just the 60,000 that we talked about the pumps. She was talking more like almost 1.7 million to 2 million to fix that problem.
And part of that's because they need more room.
Yeah,
Another building? I mean,
well, the pumps can be addressed. It's the screening that needs to go in front of them. So the way it was kind of explained to me is our headworks should have been before our influent pumps. So that all the screening and stuff that takes processing
Mhm.
our headwork, we're making the influent pumps pump them up. That's supposed to be ahead of them. So the wet well, and I'm not the engineer, but there's some engineering plans that need to be figured out for a different type of screen to go in ahead of them, like we all understand. We don't want the rocks going into the new pumps and the protection. And of course, the old ones had a grinder pump that was ahead of the influent pumps.
Mhm.
That had been taken out. She said that wasn't uncommon to see. A lot of the grinder pumps had been taken out in different places.
Why?
But the way there's no protection for the pumps now.
Yeah.
That really needs to get addressed too, which we kind of knew. So, yeah, it was a little surprising on some of the dollar figures that they were throwing around. Just for because my primary goal was we were supposed to be able to make some decision about influent pumps this summer. The price tag was a little more than we were talking about.
A lot more.
Mhm.
And I mean, you probably all are aware, Heinsberg. They had a whole proposal go out to bid for their new plant, which is a complete upgrade from what they had. It was proposed and a bond issue was passed at 11 million. The bids went out and they all came back at almost 6 million over.
Hmm.
And they don't know what to do over there now. So I wasn't surprised that the prices, are going up.
Would it be fair to say it took us about 20 years to arrive at our current state? I'm just gonna say, and the point of that is not to throw any individual or group under the bus, but to point out that in many sophisticated plants, manufacturing, et cetera, if you defer maintenance and upgrades for 20 years, if you did nothing to your house for 20 years, you might not be shocked that now to bring everything up to speed ends up being more expensive than you might have thought.
Christian, who had designed it 20 years ago, was a little taken back that essential processes like the ventilation, if they didn't work when they were installed and kind of defunct or done away with, they should have been addressed
Ben?
then. I mean, there's a warranty with it. I mean, if they're not working the first winter, then you go back to them and say, hey, something wasn't designed right. But none of that was ever done.
No, you can go first. Kara had her hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Kara.
We have a history of not holding the professionals we hire to their contracts. So we have a townwide history of this, and if you need help, all kinds of examples I can give them to you, especially in the water and sewer department. And I have no problem throwing an individual underneath the bus. Kendall was here for 38 years, 38 years running this department, 38 years. And I don't know how many of the last 20 years, Richmond has been at the highest rate for water and sewer in the state of Vermont. We are there now, and we're going to stay there. So it's not just as a board and a commission, I'm begging you to please hold professionals accountable for the jobs that we hire them for. And if the water tower is designed to be too big, which it was, if the water tower has cracks coming down it, if Green Mountain Engineering did whatever, and now they're not in business anymore, they still have malpractice insurance that's in place for the time period that they did work for you. Start making claims against these insurance companies. Don't let the taxpayer have to, and the user keep having to pay for the errors. If it's not your error, and it is an error, somebody's at fault. So please start holding people accountable. I beg you, because you're gonna be stuck with a lot of problems right now.
Karen?
So I was gonna ask if there was another way to meter septage, but then I realized that the influent pump is not part of the septage, so.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about that.
No,
No, that's
I
a
don't
good, that's a
know, I
good
mean,
next,
it's all
that's
part
a
of this.
good next topic.
But before we do, I mean, we had a major breakdown with septic receiving list. The press, the screw auger that takes the solids away to the press, it broke on Sunday. Came in on Monday. We got it tore apart, figured out that it was a gear in the gearbox. We got it apart. So we couldn't take any septage because we were full. So we got the gearbox apart. We had to have gyros press the stub shaft out of the gearbox. When they did, we found out that for years, I'm sure, the stub shaft was bent almost 3/4 of an inch. It was 1 5/8 inch shaft, a diameter about that big. It was bent, and that, for Phil Laramie's guys said, that's what's caused for years the gearbox to wobble.
Okay.
So we couldn't put it back together with the stub shaft. We could find one. It was like 8 weeks out. Not taking septage for 8 weeks was not an option. I got in contact with Giros. They cut the old shaft out. They machined us a new one and had it back to us within 2 days. We got it all back together and then put it back together, and it was operable last Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
That
Yeah.
took up most of the week, getting all that stuff done. One thing I will say is we had a replacement gearbox in stock.
Okay, now that's just,
It was in a box. in the back shed. It was in a mouse nest. We rolled it out. It was brand new. It's never
Okay, you're
been
pulling our
installed.
leg. You're pulling our leg.
I am not. It was there and it was ready to go. If we had had to order the gearbox, it would have been a lot longer. But for some reason. The
So we're
costs were
ordering it
there,
now.
it was there. So that was a major breakdown this week. So for the last 2 weeks, we really haven't taken septic. There was a problem with the polymer the week before. So your septic numbers are down. Your
Temporarily.
revenues.
But our
So,
price went up, so it'll balance out.
right, price went up. So now we're gonna talk about the meter.
So
For
the
septic,
meter-
so we make that 2 weeks back.
So the one company that I talked with in New Jersey, they have this system. And you can take a look at it.
This is the
It's-
one you emailed
Yeah,
us that
it's
you're
the
showing.
same one. I just printed it off. It's a computer system where they have key cards and everything. It's $68,000.
And they get a receipt immediately.
Yes, and all the billing is taken for, it's all computerized.
So this is just like, for oil.
Yeah.
When they come to our house.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Now, is this a one and done, or do we have to subscribe to a service to keep?
Yeah, there is a service that you have to, I mean, all of them have their.
And that's
In-
13 weeks out?
This is what?
How
That
many
was
weeks out?
13 weeks out? In your email, you said?
Yeah, I think if that's what I put in the email, I had
That's
asked the
what you
guy,
said.
he said all the parts and pieces are in stock.
13
was-
weeks delivered or 13 weeks installed?
No, I think they could have it here and then there would be an installation,
Okay,
but. In discussing with the 20-year upgrade. Our septic receiving station that we have. Which is basically the screen. Is wanted. It's gotta be replaced. If we go to that. We asked them in the 20-year upgrade to include this type of a system in their upgrade. Because you get a better deal if you're buying a package. I mean, this one comes, you can get the grinder and everything, the screen that we have. And of course, you get a better rate. So we've asked them to include that in the price. I'm not sure if you want to spend $68,000 right now. The other option, if we put in just a flow meter. To monitor flow. It would be on a daily basis. We would take, a reading in the morning and a reading at night, and we would know total number of gallons through. That's at a $10,000 price range.
So my question is, we spend the 68 and install it. Is that a stranded cost, like we throw it away when we redo the tank or? you take it out?
No, but my question to the engineers were. Is there another one that fits with the system you would be recommending to us? If
Yeah.
they're gonna recommend that we put in a new grit screen and then have a screen of some sort before the influent pumps. Are they going to all be the same brand? Most septic receiving stations all come with the computerized now. I think there's only one other place in the state that doesn't have a key card system
Heidi?
for septic receiving.
So I would just assume that that would be universal with that.
Well, they didn't look at these specs and they didn't tell me what they would be thinking about
Okay,
for theirs.
so that would be a question, is it universal? My personal thought is, I think it's a waste of money to spend $10,000 and just monitor, because that's throwing money away. If it's universal, then the $68,000, my personal opinion, we do that now. Because we want to be charging to cover the cost of where we're at So we continue to move forward because I just fear that if we wait until the 20-year study, everything's done and over with, we have lost all of that revenue that we could have collected.
I
That's
mean,
my
we can have
personal
that
opinion,
we can have that discussion.
but it needs to
with
be
Jenny.
universal. That,
Um,
that thing.
Yeah, that was sort of the gist of my comment. So if we stall for 68,000, I don't want to throw away 68,000. I assume you
Yeah.
take, it's like a tire on car, it's the next
I mean-
car, you take it off, you put it on.
My discussion with the representative from the company was, we have a screen that we're using right now. Will your system be integral to it? And he's like, yeah, it'll work with any screen. You don't have to have ours. And I assume if I say that to them, that they're engineers, they can figure out that it'll work with whatever system they put in. And I'm not saying this is the only one out there. There are others, and if I called, or we called Jenny, the engineer that's doing the study, and she says, well, talk to this company, because this is the company we might use. It might come back at a lower price. I don't know.
So I think we should probably talk to Jenny, find out if she can give us specs on the meter system that she thinks would be best and would be a best fit for a future upgrade. Then we go out to RFP on those specs, we get some prices and we move from there.
Right.
Denise?
And I also wanted to just ask, any other places that receive septage, have we checked to see what kind of card system they have, and are they happy with it?
I checked a couple, one of them did use this company, this Franklin company out of New Jersey. The other one was, a different company. I never got a response when I tried to use it,
Okay,
so. These guys were real responsive. I filled out an email form and they called me back like the next day and they're like, this is what we got. We'll send you the information.
but I guess if a surrounding town or water department had something that they were really happy with, and they, were having success with theirs.
I can call like Montpelier. There's not very many towns that take as much stuff.
Okay,
as we do.
okay.
I'm still hung up on. There are meters that you could put on there that you could check in the morning and check at the end of the day and know how much you took for the day. Like,
10 grand.
but there has to be something, because like, think about a poop tank,
I know.
like when you
Well, for
haul.
us,
Yeah, but it doesn't help you if you have multiple people coming that day.
But
Who's being honest and who's
Right.
not being?
Well, and then we'll know, but it will help. I guess my thing is I just don't, like, I see them in the farm side of things and they can't be 10 grand. And I just wonder, it would help
When
us
I-
know what we're off by, like it
when
might not,
when I looked in USA Blue Book, which is the company that Bill Laramie recommends to go to.
Yeah.
For a sonic flow meter that is big enough for what we take in, 6-inch. They start at $8,900 to 10 grand.
and it wouldn't be the permanent solution, but it would help us know if we're missing by.
10%.
Right, are we
You
missing?
don't know who you're missing it
Yeah.
by.
Have to bill by you can't.
Truck.
do that for
Individual.
you can't do that for your users and where you have rates for your individual users. You gotta measure and bill correctly by what they're bringing for septage. Period.
Well, and you would know. You would know what's coming out of you could make every person write what the meter was at, but. If it was an inexpensive way to know, are we getting half of what we should be getting? Are we getting
mean, we-
quarters? Like,
We had this discussion with Josh the other day when all Alan and I and Brad met. And if you wanted just the standard flow meter that we would check every truckload, that means one of us are gonna be at the plant physically going out every time a truck.
and that's not cost effective.
And that's not cost effective.
And I understand that. I just was trying to figure out if there was like something we could put on that's. Just to
You would
see what
think.
the percentage is off. It shocks me that there's not something.
Denise?
Just because I'm new at this and trying to get to know what's going on. water and sewer budget, does it get audited like our town budget does? And the auditors have never commented about the septic issue, have they? I mean, remember,
I can check. I don't think they have.
Remember when we all used credit card, or we didn't all, I didn't all, but when people use credit cards for the gas? And
It's not the same thing, Denise. The audit does not come in.
no,
and analyze the
I'm just
revenue.
saying. The auditors went crazy over the fact of how we did our gas, town employees did their gas years and years and years ago. And I guess my question is, why haven't the auditors seen this on the report and said, what is going on? Why aren't you have a better handle on this and make that one of their key things to correct?
Because the numbers match. The piece of paper that says we dropped off 2,000 gallons, our staffer says, yep, we're billing you for 2,000 gallons. The numbers
We were
match.
told.
See,
They're going by what we
we're, it's,
Yeah,
It's honor system and the honor system ain't working.
yeah.
Heidi?
we were told that these were the correct numbers. We're realizing we're moving forward. So again, I want to get back to dates on with Jenny. Can we possibly get to Jenny, contact her this week to see if that is universal or if she comes up with a better one for the credit card system of how that works. So for the next meeting, we know exactly how much that costs.
I'll call
And
back
then
here.
we move forward and figure out if it's $68,000 or maybe it's $40,000 or 70 or
I
80,000.
can contact.
Then
her
we can move forward.
tomorrow.
I think Jenny's creating the scope of the RFP. It's not about the system Jenny's going to necessarily design. If Jay said it has to go to RFP or Josh said it had to go to RFP.
Would have to go to.
It has to go to RFP. It's Jenny designing what is put out for the RFP.
Right, but
Is where you're at.
But
Do you
she can
need-
also give me another
Advice.
name or
Correct.
some other names.
But do you guys
to call.
have to approve sending
no, we can get.
the
an RFP.
establishment RFP and just putting it out there? So you're gonna put out the RFP before your next meeting to be able to make decisions at your next meeting.
Well, so we'll put out the RFP as soon as we get the specs from Jenny, you can put it together in RFP. We might need more than 5 days to get back specs from people, so we'll get on it, but we don't need another meeting to then go out to RFP, but we'll start the process, and the next time you guys will see this will be, here's the bids.
Beautiful. Thank you.
That's what I'm
Okay.
getting.
It may not be in 2
Thank you.
weeks, but
Yeah.
yeah, but we don't need interim approvals.
What's next on the
Thank
list?
you.
And I-
That was.
I met with D-Tums about starting the paint cleaning. We have a major issue that we need dumpster on site. We don't have any place at the plant where we can physically put, they would like us to have a minimum of 3 dumpsters on site at one time, so they can start the plant cleaning.
The tank cleaning?
Yes.
Okay, big
Because
dumpster.
they have to suck it out and then they have to put it in the dumpsters. And then it has to dry for 3 weeks before Casella will pick it up and take it away.
Big dumpsters,
Big dumpster.
like trailers.
We do not have they're 22 feet long, 8 feet wide and 4.5 feet tall. We don't have any place physically to put those dumpsters. The only place that, we had to talk to you guys about it is in front of the plant to the side of the parking area. It's there, which means we will have to create a containment,
Fence.
a containment center, which would mean a liner with the, a border around it. Then the 3 dumpsters would be in place, and then they would have to make a physical ramp to back their truck up into, to dump into these dumpsters. Then we'll have to have a sub pump in there that would dump into the manhole.
Have we never done this before, ever?
The problem is it has not been done in the last 10 years. 5 years minimum in these tanks. And there's a tremendous amount of material there.
Heidi?
So can we use, I'm just thinking outside the box again, use smaller dumpsters? 3 days, clean it out. They, Casella
Problem is-
hauls it away.
Okay.
Smaller.
You
Okay,
have to sit for 3 weeks.
they gotta
Oh.
sit for 3 weeks and
Oh.
drain,
Sorry,
and that's why we have to.
I
have
was thinking 3
containment.
days.
Again, thinking outside the box, why can't we use the property on Cochran Road? Either over Rockers.
Well. It has to have access to the sewer system.
But does it have to be right? And
Yes.
if you're gonna put it in a truck, can't we truck
I-
it 2 miles down the road?
Not if they've got to line it. It can't
Well-
go far because it's gonna leak out.
Gotta drain into.
Well, it won't leak out. Once it's in the dumpsters is when it's gonna drain out.
Correct.
And that, but once it's, I mean, they could truck it from.
For the right price.
There you go.
What?
Can we rent from someone
Can we rent
nearby?
Fertilizer.
From a
Someone
farmer?
nearby,
Need some land.
just saying.
You know, let me find out. I told them that when I proposed this, that, I mean, there might be an alternative.
Yeah,
If they build a containment center. And which is basically a lined area with. Basically a plastic covered area with bermed sides. The dumpsters get set inside it. Then they could suck the material out that drains out. I don't know why they couldn't put it. They said that it had to have access to the sewer system, but if they drained it out with a sucker truck, I don't see why they couldn't then dump that into a sewer system. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And I told them that there might be a better alternative.
You need a farmer with a tractor and a honey wagon.
Where, like by Gary Bresser's house, that pump station, could you do that there? Cause that has access to this
No, there's not room there.
for 3.
No.
When is it scheduled to happen?
We're not scheduled because I have to call Casella to find out when we can get the dumpsters. Because, so basically, we're stuck. Casella is the only place we can get rid of this
Stuff, yeah.
this waste. And so the dumpsters have to be delivered. They have to be into a confined
Yeah.
containment center. Then the dumpsters have to be lined. It's like $1,000 for the liner that goes inside those dumpsters. It's basically a big plastic bag. And then everything, they're designed so that they leach out. And then you can collect the leachate and dump that in. And they want them so that after 3 weeks, they come right in and take them. The minimum of 3 weeks of leaching.
This is also have to be kind of secure, like fenced in.
Well, you don't want the kids playing in it.
Right. So that's where I'm going, like.
Well,
and
people
frankly,
burn
it's one of my concerns about.
I
how
agree.
to green out
Yeah.
the area.
I was a little thinking the same thing.
So I see signs for whoever's farm is back behind. And they say, don't walk here during whatever time of year as they get from Essex, I guess it is. Has that been processed before they spread that or
Do you mean our fields behind?
are those your fields behind on the side of the river behind the
Yeah, well, they're far fields, yes.
okay.
The Essex thing, I don't think is any longer. I believe that program is
Oh.
null and void now.
Oh, okay.
They're not spreading it Wickham's anymore.
Oh, at Wickham's, yes, but not on I don't believe they're spreading on our fields anymore.
Okay.
I mean, there are.
Places that they do that, but I
there
think
are
that's an
places
outdated
that
sign.
Very few left in the state, red sludge. Or solids. But this is a material that
It's too wet.
is destined for a landfill. It's not,
Spreadable.
it's
Yeah.
not, it's grit. It's gravel.
So
It-
I'm not the one to make these sorts of decisions, but I would say I will give you Ashley's contact information and you should ask him,
Sure,
because I do think,
I had never thought, I was thinking town properties.
well, and I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm not I'm just saying, I'll give you his information and you can
Another
ask him if
possibility,
that,
yeah.
and see if that's allowed, but
And is there a gate there?
Yes.
yeah.
So then it's confined,
Mhm.
kind of.
You'd
Unless
want
you come from
another
the
gate
backside.
too, but
You can go,
you,
Up
it's,
the embankment.
yeah, it's a,
I don't know.
just a wire, but,
there's a gate, there's not a fence.
Okay,
I don't know, I would
Security's
assume if
implied.
it could be worked in with when crops are taken off
Yeah.
or something, they probably wouldn't. be
I mean,
able to.
like I said, Casella wants them a minimum of 3 weeks once they're filled. And the reason that we came up with 3 dumpsters is that is the number of dumpsters that we would use to empty our first septic tank. We looked in it and estimated today that there's about 60 yards of material in it.
Does
Just
Casella
'cause
possibly have a place that
I
you
was
can do it?
just gonna ask that, yeah.
Does Casella have possibly a place that these that could be brought to and rented? It's just an idea.
We had that, I think. Jill from V-Tunes had done an extensive study when she started, when I put this out to have our tanks all cleaned because they have so much. There was no place in the state that would take it. Because it is a side stream that doesn't have a disposal.
No, so I didn't know if since Casella's gonna take it in the end, does Casella possibly have a place for us? to
Store
rent
it for the 3 weeks.
Well, then you get into the fact that we would have to, V-Trums will have to truck it to Casella, wherever. We're trying to keep it. If we can, local.
Not going to the soccer field.
But if there's gonna be a cost to a new fence, a new pallet, a new cat, like what's the cost of constructing this whole new facility?
Transfer station for 3 weeks over there on.
Right, or is there a bigger, like, does Burlington have a bigger space that we
We
could?
thought about that.
It's
We
fenced,
could
it's
probably
gated.
have a convenience center at the.
Or like another
Sorry?
facility, would they let us like take it to Burlington and they could just let it, they have a spot to let it
I don't
sit?
think-
I mean, maybe nobody
They
has
had
space.
They had originally contacted Middlebury, but the amount of material that we have, Middlebury isn't gonna do.
Well, we can continue to talk through some options and come back with a better plan, maybe.
But, yeah, if we want to get it done in this summer.
Century.
We already have cleaned the 2 clarifiers. And we have cleaned the fish tank and we should have that ready and operable to switch over. And we'll be draining our other aeration tank. The discussion with Jill today, who from V-Tunes, who was there, is she thinks we can process that material back through our plant the same way we did the fish tank. We cleaned it very little, we cleaned a strip at a time and just let it go through the plant. And it didn't upset any of the processes or anything. And she thinks even if we had to do a smaller section, that's going to save us a lot of money in the end. So we're hopefully going to try to save some money on that end. It's the septic that we can't do that with.
Did the fish go somewhere?
Yes.
Kendall,
Kendall came and got his fish. Nice.
I hope that we took them and dropped them off to Kendall and
We
he
did.
didn't come to the plant. but-
Hmm.
They were delivered,
Let's
the
relive.
ones that survived.
And did you put him in a Essex?
So there, yeah. So, yeah, I will contact, my call tomorrow was to, Casella anyway, to talk about this. And I'll ask them if they have a place that they could store them. Or if the option of a field or a place with a containment center that could be sucked down is appropriate. There's just no way, we don't have any space that trucks could maneuver around at the plant. And
Yeah, it's
still
pretty
be
tight.
able to get our dump trailer out.
I think of the other facilities that are not too far distant, like Montpelier, Waterbury, and I'm trying to picture the fields that are next to theirs. Basically, you need a space to drop these things that drains into their system.
Yeah, we don't have that.
And it's gonna be, what is it? They're each 22 by 8.
Yeah.
So if you have space 40 by 40, which is not that big. Right?
Line them up.
Yeah.
This
But-
way, not this.
The
way.
other thing that has to be done is there has to be a ramp built so that heat dumps can dump into that.
Yep.
A gravel ramp. I mean,
Well, we just pile up some pallets.
That's gonna work.
That's good.
I got one right now on the plan if you're interested.
What do they have, like a front end loader to dump?
No, it's a back truck. So they actually have to physically back the truck over the dumpster and open the back.
Oh,
So if we cut out some chain link fence and put the dumpster on the outside where it's lower.
Well. In the future, the idea was that area where the. I mean. If it ever would happen. You build a retaining wall where those 3 trees are in the front,
Mhm.
extend the parking lot out so that they could actually back up. To the edge of the retaining wall and they could dump right into the dumpsters there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But we don't want this in the future. We want to keep it clean every year. So we don't want this to happen.
Yeah.
It's just this one-time thing that it's a pain in the butt to deal with it.
So what's next on our list?
So sidetracked, I gotta
Yeah, I
find
think
it.
that was, those are the big, I didn't even
Those are
know,
the
yeah.
big things that we're trying to deal with
Yeah.
right now.
Okay,
I
probably-
know Heidi has one.
I do have a question, and it's the house meters. So when are we planning on doing the house meters?
the new meters, the
The
smart
new
meters.
meters,
We have a meeting this week for all of us to sit down and review your suggestions on the bids. So we should be able to come back at next meeting, I think, with the recommendation. Right?
27.
perfect. So we've got haulers and we've got the house meters. I am golden. I am so happy, people.
Is it?
It's
house
both.
and-
Well,
It's
right,
both.
yeah, so customer
It is.
meters.
It's
Yeah.
house
But
meters.
So the process we were at was we got the bids back and through various crises that have bubbled up.
Yeah,
So I know you guys have your favorite. You're looking into that. We're gonna get a good price comparison on all 4 bids to make sure that we're looking at the right pricing, for each option from each vendor. And then we'll make a decision and or recommendation and come back to the commission.
and how will we read what's the readout? Is it
So that would be like that's the wireless one, right?
what,
The readout would be, we're looking at the wireless readout.
the radio.
Yeah.
so you drive by a vehicle and it just. Okay.
And also, we're looking at the one that
The
would
system
alert us.
that we kind of feel is the best is the Neptune system. It's the system that Shelburne has gone to. It's also the system that Champlain Water District uses. It has a lot of options. One of the options is if you had, they have places that where the radio reads don't work. So they have it cell-based. Those can also transmit to the radio reads. So it's an integrated system that seems to work. Not that we would have to use that here. The only one that I could think of would maybe be the one that's in the basement at Harrington's might not read right, but that was the system that we kind of liked. And the other reason for justifying that system was they have in the past been very responsive for getting your meters. The current company that we use, EJP, I've waited 6 weeks to get meters before. And that's not something that we really want. Not that we don't want to put in all brand new meters and have to change any, but.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing that's come up is that we have been given some leftover meters from Shelburne. We have them. They have been sent out to be reprogrammed because Shelburne calculates theirs in, I believe, cubic feet, and our meters are calculated in gallons.
Are they new? Are they used?
Huh?
Are they new?
No. They're 5 to 7 years old. They are the same iFurl census meter that we currently have been installing here. My thought was that we should not, as a town, be spending money on those meters until we make a decision on what meters we're gonna be installing.
Heidi?
I'm gonna second that.
Yeah.
To not be spending any money on something that we are potentially replacing
Replace it.
everything.
Yeah.
That is a waste of money.
So we're not having them reprogrammed then.
You better talk to your interim superintendent.
Well, then you're spending money on reprogramming something.
So
we're not
I am
doing.
asking.
Yeah.
that-
You guys, if you guys want to know the cost, I believe it's $100 a new meter. If you get 10 years of life from those meters that read a 1/10 of a gallon, you get 10 years out of them. They'll work on both EJP or your other ones. And if it costs you $200 for 100 meters, instead of paying $135 for a single meter by 100, that's a lot of money you're saving. We're
Heidi?
talking thousands of dollars there.
But we're
If it's
not saving if
$100.
they're 10 to 25% off with old meters. So that is not cost effective as far as I'm concerned economically.
They're more accurate than the AMCO ones you got in there. All those AMCO ones won't pick up that. Those new ones will pick that up. They will pick up tiny flows. The AMCOs don't. They
I
actually
think we're
board up all the little ones and make 1,200 gallons.
I think we're lost in the weeds about this. I think, as I understood it, there's a meeting on June 7th, and there will be a follow-up thereafter. I think the RFP and replacement plan for the future should drive our decision for the near term. So if we're gonna replace all the meters in a year, it wouldn't make sense to buy a bunch of replacement meters that last 10 years.
Obviously, yeah.
He's already having them reprogrammed right now, is what. Stephen
They were
said.
completely free, guys. It cost us no money whatsoever. They cost you
Meters were
$0 as it stands.
Shelburne. Shelburne took them out in their upgrade.
Yeah.
They are 5 to 7 years old. And they gave them to us.
In light of time, Josh, can I ask that this be addressed at the meeting on June 7th and we follow up?
Spending money on programming them now, though, you need to know that.
They've already been sent to EJP to be programmed.
Okay.
And I
We
had
can
this
also
discussion.
use them for our other ones we have that are in there now anyways. We have those 99 other ones that we can use them for. So you only have to replace effectively maybe 200 plus more ones. There are these as much a replacement for any other census ones that go too. So they can be used for the old
In light of
census
time, I
ones,
think we
they'll
gotta
buy in a
stop
meter,
talking.
which will
Sure.
save you money too.
So I think if you have a meeting on the 7th, which is in 2 days,
2 days.
I think you should call EJ tomorrow and say, please don't reprogram our meters. We will call you back on Thursday after we have a chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
we should make a decision on Wednesday, and then you can call back and decide if we're, because as Bard said, we need to work on time.
Yeah.
Does that seem reasonable?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I don't think we should spend any money on old meters until we decide where.
Yeah,
That's
so
what she's saying.
that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
That's what we're saying.
Call tomorrow and ask them to table it, and we'll call them back on Thursday.
So Josh, you want to talk about our options for establishing authority to transfer water allocation?
Would love to. I'll try to keep it less than the 10 minutes allocated here.
We're
So,
way over now.
yeah, and we thought 5:30 was too early to start.
I've been sitting here going, what were they thinking?
I thought you were fine.
So this goes back to Dan Noyes' request to transfer his sewer allocation from the current market, or water and sewer allocation from the current market to the future home of the new market. There's guidance in the sewer ordinance or sewer rule about that the commission would have the authority to grant that transfer, but there is no such guidance, or it's basically silent in the water rule. So we came back with a few options. We could go back, both ordinances probably need a good overhaul. They're from the 70s and the 90s. And really rewrite both ordinances and include this, but that's, months, if not a year plus long process. In the interest of moving more quickly, he said we could adopt a rule that would basically be an amendment to the water system rule that the commission could draft, or we could draft, and the commission could then adopt, and that would give the commission authority and a policy or a rule to do the transfer. It wouldn't have the same authority as an ordinance, but it's probably a quicker way to get there and sort of put this on the list of things to address in a further ordinance. Another option he said was to amend the current sewer rule in the allocation section to add water. I think that's a little less clean because it's a sewer document. I'd rather take the sewer part out of the sewer document, change sewer to water, make that an amendment for water rule. And that seems, according to his guidance, a relatively quick process where the commission could vote to approve that, and then you'd have the authority to transfer sewer allocation. Or water allocation, sorry. Aaron,
Would this, so then if someone wanted to do this in the future, would it be a case by case thing, or would people just be able to transfer their allocations?
they would still have to come to the commission, and I think the way the sewer ordinance is written, it has to be between an owner of the same property. This has to be the same owner, so I can't transfer it to you. But if you own two properties, you could transfer it with commission approval.
And how does that work if someone is like a tenant? If someone's like the owner and they're renting to a business, would that business be able,
Right, because we've got,
I think that the,
you know, 'cause like
Owner-
Dan owns both buildings,
yeah, I think it
but
would, I double checked that, but I think it would have to be the owner kind of on behalf of the tenant requesting the allocation. Yeah,
right,
and that would take care of the town allocation to transfer it over. And then the state process, I did look into that a little bit. I'm a little less clear on transfer authority there. He might have to go through a separate process with the state. He might have to buy more allocation. I don't really,
no.
I don't know that process well, but this would satisfy for the municipal portion of it. So if you guys want me to go in one direction, I can try to draft some language and come back with language.
Can I ask what the cash value of this is?
I forget off the top of my head, it's a few $1,000s though, for transfer, for the allocation that he's looking into.
And that's paid when it's allocated.
When they purchase the allocation, it's a one-time fee,
Right.
yeah. Like a few dollars per gallon of allocation based on the design flows.
And that's not to say that he might come back and want to buy more allocation
Yeah.
for whatever he's doing
Later.
Yeah,
with the other place. but-
right, exactly. He might need more, but I think it seems to me that his thought right now is the replacement for the market's gonna use less water than the market, but
Mhm.
you're right. If all of a sudden he puts a brewery in there, well, he's gonna need a little more allocation.
I'd say whatever's fastest and
Okay.
I think, I mean,
And also appropriate not to mix our water and sewer.
right.
10 feet of separation, I think, is minimum.
We try to keep those.
All right, but we can,
that's
Yeah.
fine.
I 30-second, it seemed, I just reading through that, are we headed to doing a big rewrite at some time of all this? I mean, it sort of seemed like, oh, well, we don't want to go there because. that
Well,
was-
I think we really probably should. I remember a couple of years ago, we looked into it. We should probably look at it with fresh eyes, because I remember Kendall came in with, here's a 75-page document from other towns, and it's a huge process. So it might be worth looking into that process a bit more to see what other ordinances are out there that we can kind of borrow from, and maybe it doesn't have to be a,
Just
80-page document.
Sewer.
well, then again, the sewer one, I think, was written in the 70s, and the water was in the 90s. They were written far apart. I hear you, but I don't think it was matched up really well 50 years ago.
And I would observe also town versus village stuff entered in. It would strike me as this is a worthwhile project when when the dust has settled.
Mm.
Like when we're in the midst of putting out a fire is not the time to shop for a new refrigerator. Or, to contemplate our investments. And I feel like we're putting out a fire right now at the wastewater treatment plant.
Mhm.
So I would suggest we do put this kind of on the shelf and note that when we're kind of past the biggest hurdles of putting out the fires we have, that this is a future project, maybe a year from now.
The thorough revamp as opposed to the quick Band-Aid.
Yeah. I mean, the whole
Yeah,
thing
project.
needs to be revamped,
Yeah.
but
Denise?
David and the board, I'm just curious if there is maybe a subcontractor out there that does this already, that you wouldn't have to do it here as volunteers, that there's somebody out there that we could subcontract at the same time to get that document in place and put both documents together, as he was saying, and see if there's somebody maybe through the leagues of cities and towns or something else that has already done this.
Yeah.
And that, you know, on a scale of a town that with this size, with this kind of water, this is, you know, this is, and you could go and just yay or nay the sections that you like.
Yeah.
And that it's not something you would have to consume yourself with every meeting.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I think that's a plausible approach. I still think the fire metaphor, like that we can be around. I think.
June of 2024.
Sure,
Put it on the-
put it on the
Put on
calendar.
the agenda. You have a $1.5 million screening thing to.
Josh, you want to give us a quick update on the Gateway expansion project?
We met with the Reeps today, with Joy, Bard, and Josh and I. They're going to be able to do the scoping and the pressure test on the same day.
Okay, she did get my email. I didn't get a
No.
response back.
Oh, well, okay. And they understand that it's on them. If something blows up, it's not really our issue. And, they did ask if we got anything further from the land trust on exactly what the proposed, 2 months ago, they said we looked favorably on amending the easement. It'll take 2 months or so to really get the specifics out. Well, it's not been exactly 2 months yet, but it's coming up on it. So I sent an email to Jim and Jeremy and said, just any update.
Okay.
And that event is, I think, the first week of July.
July 7th.
You know, it's not far away.
July 6th.
Oh, I thought you said the 7th.
Scoping
today.
and pressure testing. I think they're gonna have it on the same date. I mean.
Right.
That was-
We're supposed to scope it, they said that they could be here at 9 o'clock in the morning and then take probably an hour.
Really?
hour and a half.
Okay.
And that's a fork in the road, you know, whether that's a viable path, and if not, then if it is, and it's in decent shape or can be made easily in decent shape, then that looks like a viable path, if not alternative plans, and then also moving forward on what it would look like between a modification of the Northern Borders Regional Council, do I have that right? Anyway,
Commission, but yeah.
Commission, right.
the grant and what it would take to modify that or amend that approved grant application for a different path to the same property.
Mhm.
Those are just two of the front end things.
And that was for like something like $100,000 or $200,000.
47.
About that, yeah.
Just because I'm new, wondering when someone does like a scoping study or something, and like you said, that the REITs are
Mhm.
willing to take that responsibility on if anything happens. Is there like a process that they have to go through to say that? Is there like paperwork or like a legal document
So
or anything?
Usually.
I feel like if something happens, that's really expensive.
No, so with this, so the scoping is less risky than the pressure test, and that's why we're doing the scoping first. If you do the pressure test and it blows up, you got a whole bunch of trouble. The scoping, the scoping study, is, less chance that something will go wrong, but we're involved as the town because we have the relationship with the Vermont Rural Water Association, and they're willing to provide that study for free of charge.
Okay.
So we said, oh, if you could do that for the school, that would be great. So they're willing to do that. But what we're doing now is working on an agreement, because what rural water wants us to sign is a document that says if they lose any equipment in the sewer pipe, then we'll pay to excavate and get that out of there. So we're going to have a document that states that that's the school's responsibility or the REIPs. They can kind of figure it out, but it's not the town's responsibility to do that. And once we have that in place, then they can do the scoping study. And then if they proceed to the pressure test, since the town wouldn't be involved in that at all, it's a private line hired by the school in agreement with the REIPs. If they blow that up, that's on them, and the town isn't involved as a third party bringing in a contractor or anything with the scoping study.
And does the school have any reason to do a scoping study and a pressure test?
I don't believe so.
I mean, I think their interest is that maybe the town would take it over at some point if this project continues to move forward, and I think they'd be interested in that. That seems to be their interest, if I
Bill
summarize it.
from, MMU would like us, and we will provide him a copy of the scoping. It's basically a camera that goes on a robot down the pipe. And it's,
Colonoscopy.
yeah, pretty much.
I think they also don't know exactly where the pipe is, and this will
Yeah,
help them
they-
locate where it is, and because I remember years ago, they were asking where the pipe, but
The map, I don't.
yeah, so.
Denise?
On Wednesday, July sixth, are those campuses, Camel's Hump and Richmond Elementary, going to be able to be used and will they have water? There's at least, well, there's summer school going on. There's live wires, there's our community cares camp. So both of those campuses are,
I was told that that was an appropriate date for us to be able to do it. I don't know about the pressure testing. But
Because it's
for the
just a
time
joke.
that we would be, they have water, that
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
affect it.
Can I jump in though? It's not my decision. It's not this group's decision.
Right.
It's a decision between the school and the Reeves. So we're talking about it, but we didn't choose the date. We're not paying for it. We're not taking liability for it. It's on the.
so we don't need to notify either school then if anything
It's
were
the
to happen.
school making the decision.
I already notified them.
Okay.
And they told me anytime after the 19th of this month, we could do it. And when I contacted Rural Water, the first available date that they could do it was the 6th of July. Well, I contacted Phil at MMU and who is in charge of facilities. And he said, yep, that date works great for us, 100%. So they're aware of it.
Okay, good.
The Reeves are aware of it. And I don't know who else needs to be aware of it.
Okay, moving on. Consideration of recommending applicants for the customer seats on the Water and Sewer Commission to the Select Board. So this board would send our suggestions to the Select Board and the Select Board would act. We have 2 open seats and we have 2 willing candidates. Both Aaron and Morgan have expressed interest in continuing.
David, I'd like to move to recommend to the select board that Morgan Wolliver and Aaron Farr be appointed to 1-year terms on the Water and Sewer Commission, filling 2 seats reserved for customers. We actually have 3 seats for customers.
Hmm.
Do we?
Customers, 3 select.
Oh, that's right, 2. It was 4 and 1 before, sorry.
Oh,
I second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Bard, motion seconded by Jay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, moving forward, calling the motion to a vote. Please identify yourself and signify your vote.
J.I.
Do we vote?
Morgan abstain.
Aaron abstain? I don't.
Third eye.
Boy, it's all up to me. I should make it a break. Oh, the power is intoxicating. This is David. Aye. Congratulations. Well, not officially yet. We have to move it. to
But
the
kind of
select
if
board.
you voted in this,
Any-
it's all you need for that next meeting too, right?
Yeah,
I've seen it
Free to do.
change,
I have to.
Congratulations.
but I think we'll be.
Well, given what we're expecting to ask of them shortly thereafter, I think it's reasonable that
Okay.
Given we have 12 minutes left and we have 15 minutes worth of agenda items, would it make sense to move F and G? Let me rephrase that. Would it make sense to move items F and items G? Update on 10% Vermont program and discussion of water tank effervescence to the next meeting?
I think,
yes,
well, F would take 30 seconds, wouldn't it?
Hear about F.
go ahead. I'll defer to you.
F and G. Thank you, Mary.
So am I leaving F?
I mean, I think it's pretty,
So we looked into this and it looks like they need a lot more detail on a project to go in for the 10% of Vermont loan. We don't have that level of detail yet in any projects that we would be proposing for this loan. It does sound like there's going to be a second round for the loan, probably in the fall, and then we might have a chance to have a project that is more to fruition and can apply for that loan. I think you have more to add there, and you were closer to that than I was the last 2 weeks.
no,
Okay.
do you?
No, I'm good.
In G is
No.
discussion of water tank effervescence, and that could easily take more than 5 minutes.
And we have an additional item that we might post
Yeah.
in advance of that.
H, discussion of next water and sewer meeting dates.
Dates?
So
Yeah, because of Juneteenth and.
Oh,
Fourth.
that's right. Yes, sorry.
We want to move the meeting from Monday, Juneteenth to the next day. I'm okay with that.
So the motion would be to move our Monday meeting to Tuesday, the 20th.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
And Morgan has a question.
Yeah, Morgan has a question.
Somebody second, I just.
Well, if there's no
discussion.
second,
Yeah,
If we get a second, we can talk about it.
I'll second.
Okay, Morgan, do you have a question?
Well, when, I don't want to act and I'm selfish here. I have something happening the next day. So, but I want to be, I think this the correct,
No, we can leave it. I'm okay with staying.
politically correct here and saying I also don't want to sound like I'm being biased anyway, so. So I'd like to hear from other people.
I can do either. Yes,
My suggestion is to follow the lead of the select board because it works for
Uh,
three of the five of us to have it the same night. The select board has to decide.
Right.
And so if it stays on Monday, I think this meeting should stay on Monday. If the
And we've got
select board
time to
meeting
decide
stays
that
on
next time.
Monday,
Fair
I
enough.
think it's
Yeah.
moved.
Okay, so I withdraw the motion.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have a next meeting. We would basically just go with what the board says at the next meeting. Because it's the next like, we'll go with what the board says in 2 hours.
Yeah,
Because the next meeting would be June 19th.
Oh, you're right.
So what we'll just do is if we end up upping it, we'll just talk to the commission members. We'll put out a notice for a special meeting, which will be on the 20th rather than the 19th. And we'll make sure we get notice out to everybody in advance.
Same
we
basic thing
should
for
be
July
fine.
5th.
Same thing with July 5th, and we'll have time to notify the public. I mean, we've rescheduled meetings before. It'll be okay.
Okay,
approval of warrants, minutes, and purchase orders.
I move we accept the minutes from our annual meeting.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion made by Jay, seconded by Aaron to approve the draft minutes of the annual water and sewer customer meeting. Absent any further discussion, calling the motion to a vote, please
Say
identify
aye.
yourself and signify
Karen,
your
aye.
vote.
Morgan, I.
Bard, aye.
And David, I.
I
Minutes
move
have
we
passed.
accept the minutes of May 15th, 2023 as presented.
Thank you, Jay.
I second.
Thank you, Aaron. Motion is to move the minutes of the May 15th meeting, made by Jay, seconded by Aaron. Any further discussion? Hearing none, calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Say aye.
Aaron, I.
Morgan, I.
Bard, aye.
And David, I.
We do the PO.
We also have oh yeah, you're right.
David, I'd like to move for approval of purchase order number 4353 to various chemical suppliers for different products for a total amount not to exceed
So this is, go ahead.
56,356.67.
Second,
Okay, so the motion is to approve purchase order 4353.
Wait, actually, so sorry. The amendment here is to add $3,758.31 because this is a poorly written PO and we're gonna change this for next year, but we had $10,000 in sodium aluminate phosphate kind of budgeted for the year, and we're gonna be over by 3,758.31. Did you add that? And I just,
No.
okay, sorry, I think you read the 56,356.
Yes.
Okay, so it's to amend it to add $3,758.31.
So the motion is amended
51.
for purchase order number 4353 amended to add $3,758.31 for various chemical suppliers.
second, the motion as amended.
Okay, so this is a motion to amend purchase order 4353 to add an additional $3,758.31. Motion made by Bard, seconded by Jay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, my God, that's messy. Calling the motion to a vote.
Jay,
Please
aye.
identify yourself and signify your vote.
Say aye.
Aaron, I abstain because I don't understand the PO.
Morgan, I.
Bard, aye.
And this is David, I. So this purchase order was approved. But the costs associated with the chemicals needed on that
before
approved
my
purchase order went
Right.
up.
Okay,
So the purchase order came back to this commission to be amended for an additional $3,758.31. So we're amending previously approved purchase order to extend
okay. I understand that part, but I just, this is like. whoa,
Yeah,
don't
I hear
really
you.
want that.
I think Josh said he was gonna rewrite it.
Well,
Yeah.
I think next year we'll do it better, because
I
there's
move to
like,
accept the warrants
yeah.
as presented.
I'll second that. Aaron.
Motion made to approve the warrants as presented by Jay, seconded by Aaron. Any further discussion? Hearing none, calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
This is J.I.
This is Aaron, I.
Morgan, I.
And this is David. Aye. Discuss items for next agenda. So the effervescence on the tank is moving down to the next agenda.
More about meters.
More about meters, more about septage metering.
One thing that should probably get added, the state's coming to the wastewater facility to do an inspection on June 15th.
Goody.
Great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great, but
So you'll have to follow up for that.
Yes, Denise.
Would it be possible to add item F, update on the 10% of Vermont? It happened so quickly what you just said. I know you've got a time crunch. I'd like to understand how that didn't happen. You know, was Connie involved? Was Duncan involved? I guess I'm really disappointed that that didn't happen. And I know Jay stepped up and volunteered
And then
And I-
got swamped.
and I get it. But I'm really disappointed that we didn't go after that first round of money when we have so many things we need for the plan.
No, we can do that. Anything else? Okay, at this time, we would call for a motion to adjourn, and I want to comment that we're finishing 4 minutes early.
Morgan makes a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is Bart on, will second that?
Motion made by Morgan, seconded by Bard. Calling the motion to a vote, please
Say
identify
aye.
yourself and signify your vote.
Aaron, I.
Morgan, I.
Bart, aye.
And this is David. Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.